I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
It's the things that make you look at what you thought you saw in a different light. The hole in the Pentagon being too small for a plane. The lawn isn't mussed up. The government's not showing the plane hitting when many cameras photographed it.
There's nothing to fear except God. God. God.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask?
It's too big.
Back and to the left, 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 back and to the left.
Hello, everybody. We are back, the Half of God's Face podcast. Me, Zach, and here's Austin, who is a
Please
great
don't
guy.
make fun of me. Oh, please don't.
Austin is a great guy. He is, hey, buddy, how's it going?
How much did they pay you?
Don't you like this? After just terrorism,
I do.
every episode.
Yeah. Actually, well, here's you know, you know,
No,
you
this
just
comes
keep
at a
like
price.
you know, when you're in a relationship and you just keep hitting them, and then you stop and
Oh
you're
my
like,
God,
"I love
bro.
you,"
No.
and they're like, "Wait, what's going on?"
I don't know anything about that, and if you're comparing this podcast to a domestic situation, I am offended by that, and I want to gouge your eyes out with a spoon. But you know, I was trying to be nice to you,
Oh
but
my
no.
God.
Anyway, and here's the really specific reason, ladies and gentlemen. I just got back from vacation where I saw a lot of the undesirables that we went to college with, and I made my little poll, as I usually do, on social media, and I say, "Hey, what should we do the podcast about?" And I put a bunch of really cool options, you know, like Obama created ISIS, et cetera, et cetera. And one of them was Zach gives letter grades to everyone that he saw when he was in Los Angeles, and we can get to that.
Yeah.
But just by being with some of these individuals, I'll say one individual. Spoiler alert. Pretty much everybody got an A except for one person, in my
Oh
opinion.
my God.
So
That's
everybody,
exciting. That's exciting, dude.
well, I don't know
We're
if
gonna
people-
fucking ruin one person's life. Let's go.
yeah. So in light of that, it was, I feel like it was a politically important moment for me to not be as aggressive with my co-host, who is a reliable, great collaborator, and all these people in LA are interesting individuals. But anyway, yeah. So no, I was in LA last week. It's kind of the point I'm making. I don't know how much I told you about that.
Well, I've only seen pictures through Instagram, but
Yeah.
I mean, what made you go there? Like, why'd you go there?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like basically what I kept telling people, and this is true, is I've gone to like the Ann Arbor Film Festival the last couple of years, and last year especially, it was just really lame. It was like nobody went. Like even people that I had met at the festival weren't there, and the weather was horrible. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to take a week vacation like during the year, I want to go somewhere that's nicer, and then also somewhere where at least I'm going to run into people that I know. So it was just good, kind of like catching up with different people. But yeah, I crashed with Malhar.
Oh, well, am I wrong in saying that you ruined the movie Seven for him?
Oh yeah, that's such a great story. Holy shit! Oh my god, no, because Malhar is so funny because he, again, you know, some interesting lore because you know all these LA people are obsessed with, oh, let's say a European man. They build a shrine up to him and they wash his feet, but Malhar was actually one of the first people to start up our little film club with this European fellow and myself. And it was me and Malhar who hosted the first ever art house film club back in 2015. And most of these people that ended up kind of getting involved later on were not there for that, but some of them were. Malhar was there. My good good friend Joe lives in Chicago. He was at the first screening. Eamon and Alex were there. So literally in this photo I posted, Eamon is one row away from Alex, and then now they're married. So it's kind of a surreal. That first meeting is kind of like surreal to look back at, but no, it was kind of the same vibe. I mean, I saw him in New York like a couple years ago when I was in New York, and that Seven story is so funny. He was like watching Seven, and I was like, "Dude, yeah, this movie's crazy." And he's like, "Yes, it's really crazy." And then I'm like, "Man, isn't it crazy that like she gets her head cut off?"
Gwyneth Paltrow gets her fucking.
It's just the worst spoiler humanly possible for any movie
Right, but I mean, to be
possible.
reasonable from your perspective, I mean, I would imagine that you were going to the movie being like understandably that he watched it as well.
Yeah, he was sitting on his. So we were in his apartment, and he just had it on his laptop. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, he's just rewatching Seven. Everybody's seen Seven like 5 times." And he looked at me in the most wide-eyed way of like, "Wait, what?" I'm like,
Oh
"Oh no, I'm just
no!
joking." And he's like, "Fuck you, fuck you." He started like hitting me. No, but yeah, Nahar is hilarious. He's one of the funniest people I've like ever known. It was so funny, like literally crap. So he's basically like in grad school and like in downtown LA, and there's like heroin addicts like fucking on the street, which is awesome. But
Well, I've only seen videos through this guy that does like bicycling videos where it's like he does the GoPro on his bicycle and he's like, oh, and then he goes through a park and he's like, oh, geez, this place isn't the same anymore. It's just not the same. And everyone's on the fucking ground. Anyway.
yeah, no, it's crazy because I feel like I just didn't. I was. It's so hyped, like the homeless stuff. I didn't ever have like a problem or anything. I was in downtown LA, and I like still didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it's different. Like you'll see homeless people in Chicago, but the ones in LA are particularly like on drugs. And then at a certain time of night, it gets really wild. Like they're just running across the streets and shit, and like but every single person so there's a
Yeah.
couple things that are so funny about Malhar. Every person I talked to, I said, Malhar, I'm staying with Malhar. And every single person said, Malhar's in LA? Nobody knew. He's been there for like 8 months and nobody knew he was there. And then the second thing I said was, oh yeah, they're like, oh, where's he staying? And I'm like, oh, downtown LA. And they're like, what? They were more shocked by that he's the fact, and everyone is like never, because it's a different thing than like Chicago where we have like there are homeless people, but there's like a lot of stuff to do in downtown. There's stuff to do in downtown LA, but it definitely has like a little bit more of like a sketchy kind of abandoned vibe in different parts of it, but
Yeah.
it's still a pretty cool little downtown area. So yeah, spoiler alert, Malhar gets an A+. We were joking around about a ton of shit and a lot of reminiscing and a lot of I don't mean this as an insult, but he's a very Indian man, and that's just an
Sure.
important part of the story as well, and that came up quite a
Yeah.
bit. And yeah, I mean, if we were recorded, on if we were recorded when I was driving the rental car, or when another one of our friends picked us up in his car, I would be going to jail probably for the things that we said. And yeah, the cool thing about Half of God's Face podcast is we don't have a Patreon, but this is the best we can do right now as far as shit talking and
If
saying
we
what is
if we
actually
if we
happening.
could grab one, we just lost him.
This is our best. This is PG. This is the PG version of what actually goes on. So literally, I land, I meet up with Malhar, I get ramen, and then our good friend Mike Rapiwano, who is
Ooh wee.
still working at a camera store and stuff, and he's kind of a combination of like Patrick Bateman and Jake Gyllenhaal from Nightcrawler and Dexter Morgan from Dexter. That's kind of his personality. So I had low expectations for how he was going
Oh
to
my god.
perform on this trip. And I did cuss him out via text because he didn't really explain why he couldn't hang out over the weekend. But we chilled twice. And so basically, he picked up me and Malhar and he drove us through LA and was just showing us all the sights, right? Being like, oh, there's this, there's that. He took us up to Mulholland Drive. and was just speeding like 60 miles an hour. And like he asked us, he's like, oh, do you want, like, he asked us what level we wanted or something, like beginner, moderate, or like, I forget the last one. And every single person I brought up, like that Mike picked us up, said, oh, did he take you to Mulholland Drive? And
Really?
we're like, yeah, because he loves just speeding through the hills, but it's like treacherous, and you get this amazing view of like the city. But we're just blasting music and stuff, and it was a lot of shit talking and just like, gossiping and talking about like all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I don't know what Mike's grade is. I was gonna give him an A just because he didn't respond on Saturday, on Friday and Saturday, but he did a great job, I'd say. So I
Oh
might give
my
him
god.
an A plus.
Is
So
that the title of the episode? Like Zach rages.
great, every person he met, pretty much. So I had this great bit because Mike just like refused to like eat or drink. So in fairness, I did get dinner with him
Oh.
once, but I don't think he really drinks much alcohol. And the reason is because I think he has like a psychosexual connection to his vehicle. He just loves driving really fast down the roads of LA in his Tesla, and it like makes this noise at him when he gets way too close to someone, or you know, he enjoys that's the let's just say it this way. Mike doesn't really enjoy a lot of things, but I think he enjoys driving the most. So
Ah.
I came up with this bit because I heard that he was working on a novel, and he like is very secretive about it. And I was just like, the first page is like the first page is like, I only love one thing: the open road, the blacktop, driving super fast through the night or something. And I was saying that he was like Kurt Russell from Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof a couple of times. You ever see that one?
I a better actor would have been Mike.
Yeah. And in that scene, he's just like,
You
yeah, this
just
car is 100% death proof, but if you want the perks of that, you really got to be sitting in my seat.
Sorry,
But
honey.
no, Mike did a good job. And then I saw Yusuf for the first time in forever. You remember Yusuf?
You knew him more than I did.
Right. But you knew of him.
Yes, for sure.
No, it was great. He also gets an A plus, and his girlfriend Emily is awesome. They both get an A plus. We went to the Comedy Store.
Oh, I saw those pictures on Instagram. The
Yeah,
Comedy
yeah,
Store.
which was pretty great. Bobby Lee and Mark Maron were on the lineup,
Oh my god.
so there were a couple of big names, and it was a long show. By the end of it, we were a little tired, but it was kind of like okay. But the definitely one of the highlights of the trip was drinking and reminiscing about the beginnings of the art
Right.
house with Malhar and Yusuf, and telling Emily about it, and at this bar. And it was a lot of fun because I didn't know anything about like politics or history when I used to know Yusuf. So I just had this moment, and I'm like, what do you think of Egyptian leader Abdel Nasser? And then
Oh!
we just got into like a 90-minute conversation about like Middle
Nine,
Eastern politics.
90 a minute. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Hey, I'm a fair guy. And then another person I saw on the trip was Ben LaBelle, who's Jewish. And the point I'm bringing that up for is that I talked to my Jewish friend, and then I talked to an Indian guy and an Egyptian guy because Yusuf was born and raised in Egypt, all about Israel. So it was pretty cool bringing up Israel and
Yeah.
talking about it to everybody. But all these people I've mentioned
That's
so far
crazy because
get
he
A
like
pluses.
airdropped me on October 7th.
What Ben did?
No, I'm no. I'm being very slanderous right now.
Very slandered. No, I'm doing
Can
a
I
speed run of this trip.
tell a weird story about that I don't think would be too invasive about Ben?
Yeah,
This I believe this was my senior year,
right.
and I mean, it's been gosh, I mean, 6 years now. So my mind might be a little foggy, but I remember Ben was he's a very Jewish man, and This might get cut out, by the way, but
No, I do remember what you're about to say because I think he brought this up to me.
that's crazy. But yeah, we were on a set when I was working with Mark Tilley, and great actor. But Ben did like a 23andMe, and he was very
Yeah.
anxious about it because apparently, like a lot of Jewish people are, like pure Jewish to the point of maybe a genetic fault, because of inbreeding, and that can have a lot of health
Okay.
complications. So he was very anxious about that, and he's like, I have my results back, and he gave me the list. He's like, I don't want to look at it. You tell me what I might be like, my mind might be, my mind might have a different view of it, but this is what I remember. He gives me the phone and he's like, I want you to look at my 23andMe results instead of, and it was, I saw one result that said 100% Eastern European. And I clicked on it and it said 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, what is it? What is it? And I was like, yeah, what were you upset about? What were you anxious about again? What were you anxious about again? And he looked at me and was like, oh my God. And he was about to like direct a set that I was on in,
Right.
college. And he's just like, oh. But, yeah, no, I mean, he's I found that funny, but obviously
No, it's great.
he's thriving and he's a beautiful person. So
Right.
but
No, I mean, I've said it before. I'll go on the record. I'm being recorded. This will be read at my trial. But I think Jews are usually pretty good looking people, Do not respond in the negative to what I just said. If you literally just had a split second, you're like, nah.
I was actually trying to mute my phone, but I missed the button. So here I am.
Oh my God. No, but that's how I've described. Ben's a good guy. I basically he bailed. We were gonna see this movie Ephus, which I ended up seeing in LA, which is like a baseball movie.
Yeah, that's got a lot of independent buzz.
Yeah. So you see why this is a good way to like basically have to do a podcast like a lot of this trip because I did see some movies and stuff. But
yeah,
Ephus is good. I think if you saw it, you'd really like it. It's mostly a comedy, but basically Ben just didn't show up to the screening, but then he made it up for it because the next day he showed up and he picked me up the next day. We went to Manhattan Beach where Inherent Vice was shot.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So we were literally like going to we went to like where the opening shot was in Inherent Vice, and we're just like, chilling on the beach and stuff. So no, God bless his heart. I ended up going to a Cubs game with him on the last day I was there, and it was maybe one of the greatest days of my life. The Cubs won 16-0 at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
And I was literally giggling. And like I wasn't even celebrating outwardly because the Dodgers fans around me were so eviscerated and they were so sad.
Good.
And I was just like,
good.
I was like, I can't. So yeah, two of the most fun thing. Going to Dodger Stadium, that is just incredible. That is like the most beautiful ballpark
see those
I've
like
ever seen.
golden wooden bleachers outside of the the home run territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's iconic. That's iconic.
Sorry, what?
Those like LA Dodger Stadium is, probably renovated, but still decently intact, based of like
right.
The historical films that you see of like the fucking the plays that.
Sorry, well,
at least in the 80s, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you might have cut off for a split second there.
Yeah. Anyway, I was saying like. It's the Dodger Stadium is still decently intact of the past, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't know how much they've like added, but no, it's so scenic. We were behind home plate, but like way up. We were like in the upper deck behind home plate, so we just had this perfect view of like the mountains in the background and stuff, and it was just insanely gorgeous up there. But the transit was a fucking nightmare. Like we literally got to this like bus station and
Oh.
we like got in this line easily an hour before the game, and we got to the game in like the third inning or something. It was just insane. Like
Oh,
it took like 90
geez.
minutes to go from a bus station like a bus station that was probably like 2 miles away, by the way, just doing a line and like being in this slow ass bus. But I did see a fucking Cubs fan on the bus, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like your jersey." And he was wearing like an Imanaga jersey or something. It was like, "Oh yeah, thanks." And I was kind of just like, we were kind of just talking about the Cubs for a while, and then the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016 and all this stuff. And Ben noticed this. I'd like totally like blacked out like this part of my memory, but apparently at one point he said like, "Yeah, I love just doing a bunch of shots of Malort and going to Wrigley Field."
Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
and I'm like, that's the I didn't hear him say that, but Ben was like, that's the most Chicago thing I've ever heard anyone say. And I'm like, yeah,
See,
fair.
that is interesting, but I would say that is complete bullshit because I saw somebody on the Wrigley, like, the red line towards
Mhm.
Wrigleyville in Chicago going to a Cubs game. I saw somebody with the Guardians jersey and it was like, nice jersey. And granted, I didn't have like a Indians at the time jersey or anything. And they just looked at me like I was an invasive species.
Well, when
And I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, are you serious? I'm like you have you encountered any other Indians fans on this in
oh
this
shit, you're
state?
saying
In this
you
state.
met another Indian fan at the time?
Yo, I don't want to say met. I hope they died, but yeah, it's like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, we literally lost to the Cubs in the World Series like a
Damn,
year
I
ago.
totally misinterpreted. I thought you were saying you said that to a Cubs fan and they were like, "Fuck
Oh
you,"
no,
but
I
that's
apologize.
crazy.
I
That's
was saying this to
crazy. It was your
and
same
they just looked
team.
at me like, thanks. And I'm like, what, are you
Well,
wearing?
do you think maybe they just didn't know you were from Ohio?
Here's the thing. If you're in another state and somebody goes up to you and says, "Yo, I like your jersey," and you're like,
Yeah.
pff, 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 pff,
Yeah, that is crazy. They
you're
gave you that
you
reaction.
are a douchebag. That is my
Well,
no. That's
that's
not that's
facts.
not even a take. That's the reality.
No, it's facts.
So that's what annoys me. I mean, that your story is very interesting, but the fact that you went like way more across the country from Chicago to LA and got
Right.
like compliments, and I was like I drove 5 hours and was on a subway and was like, "Hey, I like your jersey," and they're like, "Pfft."
Yeah, I don't know.
This is a really big problem.
Maybe they just have the same problem that I have with you, where it's like, dude, you're just
My
no, I'm just joking. No, I went from what actually I gotta get to why I'm giving you a break this week, and you're gonna enjoy the reason, but and it will not continue. You're gonna be I'm gonna attack you every other episode. No, I'm just joking again. But basically we're
what
on
the
this
fuck?
shuttle and I just kept saying, we were just talking about the World Series and stuff, and then
And
at a
Malhar
certain
was like, "I think Austin is actually. I think he should have died of cancer." I
no,
don't know. What were you
oh
going to
my
say?
god.
I'm sorry.
No, it was me and Ben were on the shuttle, and we were talking to this dude, and at one point we started joking, being like, "Yeah, but we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose." And because I kept telling people, like Dodgers fans, even after the game, I was pretty nice about it. I was like, "Guys, you're gonna win the World Series. I mean, stop acting so depressed. Like this team is gonna win the World Series back to back years, guaranteed. This is the craziest roster I've ever seen in my life." And a lot of people just didn't buy it. People were like, "Yeah, don't jinx it," or they were like, "No, no." They were like saying no, and I was like,
They won it last year.
they won it last year, and they
They can
underperformed
die.
last year.
Well, everyone in Los Angeles can die. Everyone in Los Angeles can die. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. If
I
you're
love
like,
this.
oh, we lost a bad thing in the fucking less than 20 games in the MLB season. Oh, it's not good. And even though you won the fucking World Series, what, since October? That's not even a year ago. And
No,
they're
they
like,
were acting. They were acting like their lives were over. They were so
privileged
sad.
brats. Privileged brats.
Yeah.
Put
No,
them put them in a puddle that's 2 feet long and just don't let the head up.
Oh my god. So that was the greatest night of my life. Ended up watching UFC later, but no, the other theater I went to, kind of jumping around, but I ended up going to Tarantino, one of Tarantino's theaters, right before that game too. I went to the New Beverly, and it was pretty awesome, honestly. I'm not like a diehard Tarantino guy, and I've been really critical of him in the past, but I think he's kind of aged well, just because he's a very like button pushing director. I'm kind of up and down with him. Like when you're first getting into film as like a child, he's like the king. But then when I was
Yeah, I get that. That's fair.
yeah, but then when I was in school, in college, I was like, I really dislike him, and I still don't really like his personality that much. But revisiting his films in the last couple of years, they have aged really well, because people are just pussies when they make movies. And he's one the best thing about Tarantino. He's not a pussy. He's willing to do crazy shit in movies, and sometimes it is gratuitous to the point where you're like, okay, this doesn't really like mean anything. But his theater is awesome, and everything is shown on film. And I saw like oh my god, House of Wax is what I saw, with like this
The
iconic.
movie?
Yeah, House of Wax, the original movie.
Oh.
Yeah, House of Wax from 1953,
Okay.
starring Vincent Price. And I don't think I'd ever really seen any like Vincent Price movies, but it was pretty phenomenal, I gotta say. Like it Ephus was really funny, and then had a strange ending, which I appreciated. And it's a baseball movie. And then House of Wax was kind of like a B movie, a B horror movie, but then it was so deranged that it actually was kind of great. And there were really funny like laughs and stuff in it, and really strange moments. And Vincent Price is clearly like a genius actor. Really makes me want to watch more movies starring Vincent Price. But anyway, there definitely were a lot of, how shall I say, autistic freaks in the audience, which was very cool. At one point, I think it was because it was so dark in the theater, this guy who was literally wearing a shirt that said written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, he like walked up to me in pitch darkness, right? And I was looking at him, and I kind of was like, is this the shooter? Is this guy gonna like just start, he's just gonna pull out a hand
No,
cannon
no,
and just
no,
like
no,
shoot
no,
me in
no,
that?
no.
And that didn't happen. But then he had this moment of like, he was just like, he was literally like standing over me, like looking into my face, and I like made this gesture of like, what are you doing? Like I kind of like threw my hands up in the air, like I don't even know, like what are you doing? And I don't know if he could see me. And then he kind of put his hands up, like sorry. And then he sat down, and then I realized what happened was, it was so dark, he just didn't see where his seats were.
Oh,
So he
wow.
was, yeah. So I was literally like, man, this is like an autistic freak attacking me in the middle of
No, no, no,
the
no.
darkness. And but I feel at home. I mean, me and my fellow autistic brothers, I'm kind of the alpha of the autistic world. But the cool thing about the Tarantino theater is they showed a bunch of like legendary, like a bunch of Vincent Price movie trailers like on film before the movie. And they showed a Tom and Jerry cartoon on film also. So
What?
it was really cool. I don't really care about cartoons or Tom and Jerry, but I think Tarantino, like, the theme is autism. And I think he really loves cartoons, and he kind of brings it up. He's obsessed with television as well as film, and he always brings up, that was kind of the beginnings of his style, is like characters were just bringing up television shows from like the 50s and 60s and 70s as
Yeah.
pieces of dialogue. And but no, I get it. When I saw House of Wax on film, and it's kind of like a shitty movie, but then it's kind of like great, and it becomes like a pretty good movie, even though it's clearly there's plot holes. Like there's aspects of the movie where I'm like, this is objectively kind of fucked up and broken. But the high points of the movie were so unique and so strange that I was like, wow, I really see why Tarantino would screen this, because it's like this B horror film and there's these just weird takes and weird things happen in the movie, and some of the lines are just so funny, and like they're just really awkward out of nowhere like lines that kill. And it was a great experience. Those are the two theaters I went to. And I guess the only other movie thing I did was I went to the basically like the Oscars museum, more or less. And I saw a bunch of like old like Oscars and old costumes and stuff. And I was, some people are autistic. I'm kind of more like Aspergian. I think the biopic on my life would be called My Beautiful Aspergian Mind. I think that would be the movie on my life.
Just an insert of,
Or it would be The Autist is the other good one. The
oh my
Autist.
God.
So I was having a great time looking at old Oscars and things and old costumes, and looking at people's stars and shit was also really cool. Like I found, the stars like on the Hollywood like Walk of Fame or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of cool ones. Like I think I saw Hitchcock and John Ford, and I saw Humphrey Bogart. I saw Orson Welles was one of the best ones. Orson Welles was great to see. And at one point, I saw Frank Borzage or Borzage. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Another great Hollywood director. But I was literally looking down at these stars, and I looked at one and I go, "Oh my God, Preston Sturges!" And I like said that out loud, and this woman was like, "Who is that?" Like just very like nice, like on the street. And I'm like, "Oh, he made like romantic comedies in the 30s and 40s. He's a great director." She's like, "Oh, okay. What's a good one that he made?" And I was like, I think the Long Beach Story is one I saw recently." She's like, "Oh, thanks." And then she just walked away like with her dog or something. So I was I was definitely being a tourist in different ways, but luckily I had the rental car too, so I was able to kind of drive around on my own. And after that, me and Malhar went up to try to go to the where they shot Rebel Without a Cause. I forgot what it was called, but it's like this planetarium up on this hill and had a great view and stuff. And yeah, there was a lot of great views. It's really just a gorgeous city, just amazing weather and amazing like views, and they got great burgers too. The burgers in LA are definitely it's definitely a burger city,
Well,
I would say.
did you go like chain route, like corporate
I did a
route, or
combination. I honestly love Jack in the Box, but I've been
huh?
bringing that up to people, and people even in LA are like, "Yeah, I've never had Jack in the." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I only visited there like
I
one time.
love Jack in the
Okay.
Box, and no one even like had it. But then In and Out is the one everyone brings up, and I did go to In and Out, and that was
Right.
good. Um, and then this place, Burger She Wrote, which I was told about, was actually really good. Was great. So yeah, the food was great, the experiences were great and stuff, and yeah, no, I think Thursday. I'm trying to think of anyone else I'm forgetting to mention. So I already brought up you. Okay, so Thursday was when I saw Chris, Bianca, Taylor, and Mike. We all we went to this like Hawaiian place, which was pretty cool.
Oh
But
wow,
no, yeah, Chris and Bianca they get an A plus. I didn't even expect to see them, so they were
that's
very
amazing. And
delightful
they're
people.
married now, right?
Yeah,
It's be
yeah,
freaking beautiful, dude. Hell yeah.
no, yeah, it was a pretty nice thing. But no, I think Taylor gets a D. I got to be honest. I think
Taylor Antrup.
Taylor Hentrup
Oh
is
God,
he's now put under sanctions, unfortunately.
you know
But
what's crazy? Every
what?
time this happens like every other month. I live in a house with my girlfriend right now, but
Mhm.
we don't have a laundry in the basement, so I go to my mom's house, which is
Oh, okay.
like 15 minutes away. And usually when I visit my mom, she's like, "Have you talked to Taylor? How's Taylor doing? He's such a nice guy."
Oh Jesus! Did he
My
meet your mom? I completely forgot about that.
he did for a couple hours. It
No, yeah.
maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and
Wow.
my mom still to this day was like, "Oh, he's so nice. He's just he's just so nice."
Yeah.
You know, my mom's 60. Oh well, geez, my mom's 62 years old. So I don't know. I'm a little bit insecure about that.
No, but no, she's wrong. I mean, Taylor is so I've been trying to think of how delicately I'm going to go about this, but somebody has to pay the price for somebody has to pay the price on this LA trip. Um no, he's doing his thing. He was fake LA busy or whatever, but he hung out on that Thursday, which was chill, but then he just seemed to not be available to chill the next couple days. I'm like, okay, well, goodbye. So yeah, I mean, I think that's about that. I don't know. I don't know how much. I don't have to. I don't have to be too crazy on this episode to be hilarious about
could you be
bringing up people
could
by
you
name and
be
critiquing them.
critiquing him because he actually maybe was busy, or
No, well, that's the thing in LA is like everybody. That's partially why I stayed with Malhar is he's in grad school, so he was just way more free, which was awesome. But everyone was generally busy. I get it. Everyone's working and stuff, but nah, no, I think he was lying. I think that's my conclusion. But he's one half of the nipple team, and maybe I'll
then
still watch the nipple movie that he's working on. You hear about this?
I have not.
That's his project with Mike as the DP. So you know, Mike half. Let's put it that half of the nipple team gets a good grade for LA, and the other half gets heavy sanctions put on them. Uh,
Oh my!
we could probably bring it up again. I'm like forgetting more of the details, but the really cool thing, just because we're kind of not super pressed for time, but I wanted to get to huge news that dropped, which
Oh
I think is
yes,
spiritually, and I think I pretty much touched on a lot. There's a lot of shit I might remember as we're talking that I might bring up about the LA trip, but I think I touched on a lot of the main stuff as fast as I could. But huge news, enormous news when I'm in LA. And part of the reason, one of the things I was most interested in was going to where Thomas Pynchon wrote Gravity's Rainbow. And he literally was living in Manhattan Beach in the late 60s, early 70s when he wrote Gravity's Rainbow. So when he wrote Inherent Vice in 2013 or 2014 or something, that was the way I look at it is that he decided to write that book because that was like the prime of his life. Huge announcement, new Thomas Pynchon novel, his first novel in 12 years is to be published in October. It's going to be published, I think, a week after the Paul Thomas Anderson film comes out, which to
wow.
me signals that I don't know if it's going to be official that Pynchon is connected to the new PTA film, but it does seem uncanny. The fact that he has decided to publish his first novel.
Yeah,
I don't know how long this book is going to be, but I am pumped. I think it's probably going to be. It could be. It could be. I mean, he took 17 years off between Gravity's Rainbow and Vineland, which is what One Battle After Another is being rumored to be based on.
right.
It's supposed to be and Vineland is basically a precursor to Inherent Vice. The tone of it, the fact that it's really, really accessible. It was like one of his most accessible books ever. And I mean accessible as in it was kind of like a heartwarming comedy and it wasn't super experimental. I mean, there's crazy ass shit that happens in it, but it's
Sure.
like kind of like Inherent Vice where the main character is basically a washed up hippie living in Reagan's 80s. He's like living in Reagan's America. And then he's figured out that his wife was like an informant for like the FBI or something. And his wife like disappeared. And he's like, I think he's basically raising his daughter on his own. And then at a certain point, his daughter like goes looking for her mom or something. I'm like butchering the details, but I haven't read Violent in a couple years.
Yeah.
But
Well, what's weird is, at least in terms of the film perspective, it seems like it's very modern for
oh yeah,
PTA.
yeah, it's a contemporary. Yeah,
Like, I know maybe you can say like Punch Drunk Love seems kind of like contemporary,
right.
but that film is so
Magnolia,
quick,
but
and
it's been a while.
yeah, but it really seems like 2020 or post 2010.
Yeah. No, I mean, what did you think of the trailer? That was the other thing that was we haven't even talked about too much on the podcast, but obviously it's
Yeah.
for PTA fanatics, which is and Ben.
Right.
Spoiler alert: our good friend Ben probably will be on the podcast at some point.
Good.
He
Well,
might actually be on the episode when we finally review the new Paul Thomas Anderson film in like 6 months.
oh,
If we can
that'd be
figure out the
amazing.
scheduling and stuff. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm such good friends with Ben is he understood like when we were in Manhattan Beach, he got it. And I don't know, man, it pisses me off the way certain people talked about Licorice Pizza in particular. Um the way that people would kind of just be like, "Oh yeah, this is just not a serious PTA. This is just like a comedy and stuff." And oh, The Master is better. It's like, guess what, guys? I saw The Master when it came out and I loved it. You know how many other people gave a shit about The Master when it
No,
came out?
that's exactly right.
Zero.
Like
Zero. And now they're
if you were
talking about
like
The Master.
15, if you were 15 to 25 when The Master came out, you would have been like, this fucking, I don't know, man, it's
Nobody liked
pretentious.
it.
Wah.
Nobody liked it except for like legitimate like great critics. There were some
But
great
no,
critic
that's
reviews,
a
but
great point, because if Licorice Pizza came out in 2012, that would be like fucking Inglourious Bastards. Some people, they'd be like, this is like so good.
yeah, honestly, it might have even
I
been a
really, I
bigger
really
hit if it
think
was a
that.
different year. That's true.
Exactly.
And again,
Um,
Licorice Pizza has a Pynchon vibe a little bit too. I mean, there's like really wild Pynchon types, and The Master. There was some crazy ass shit he shot for The Master where Freddie Quill was like, I don't even know if he shot it, but maybe he just like wrote it in the script and didn't shoot it. But there was a whole sequence of Freddie Quill going through the sewers in New York trying to like find alligators, like in the script, which was out of Thomas Pynchon's V. There's a whole crazy ass part in Thomas
yeah.
Pynchon's V where a character, and so I had heard all these different rumors about PTA with Inherent Vice, and we're gonna do our Inherent Vice episode soon, but he had like literally he had actually gone through the motions of trying to adapt several of Pynchon's books. And when you know that looking back, you can really see it in The Master, you can really see it at times in Magnolia, you can really see it in Licorice Pizza, and then of course Inherent Vice, which we're going to go, which is I would say my favorite film ever because it's the intersection of one of my favorite filmmakers and my favorite fiction writer ever, Thomas Pynchon. But I don't know, man. I'm really pumped for this movie, but I'm definitely one of the things I was most looking forward to with this podcast was being able to do some really good Paul Thomas Anderson episodes because everybody loves him, and we're both just such like day oneers with it that it's going to be just awesome to
Yeah.
do like 5 more podcasts on his like entire career over time. But I assume we're going to
Well,
do all of
I
his films at
yeah,
times.
for sure. I was going to say though, what you asked initially, I remember being like 17, 18, 19. And I remember talking to like all my film
Right.
friends, college and high school, being like, "Oh, dude, it'd be so cool if like Leo DiCaprio did a PTA film."
Yeah.
And then there's a decent amount of time that goes by where it's like, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
And then you hear like, "Oh, he's doing a film with Leo DiCaprio," and you see him like these shots come out on IMDb or like the internet, and you see him like holding a sniper rifle on the highway, and then you see like Tiana Taylor, and you're like, okay. I
Oh
mean,
my god,
because I
bro.
mean,
How down
I,
bad is Iman Shumpert right now?
oh, well, he's an MMA champion, so he can have all he wants. But
Well, he lost Tiana, and now Tiana's getting Tiana is getting real close to Leo now. So Iman Shumpert is an ugly looking dude too. So I mean,
Zach.
he outperformed
Zach,
Tiana Taylor.
Tiana Taylor is way too old for Leo DiCaprio, but
Well, that's also true. That's also true.
No, but I mean, I saw all these pictures and I went, okay, that's cool. Then I saw the teaser trailer,
Right.
and I went, okay. And then I saw the the trailer that came out recently, and I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost seems like kind of like an Inherent Vice vibe, but like also like
right,
maybe some sort of, I don't want to say John Wick, but a very like,
no, it's an action movie.
it's
a full on
supposed to
action
be an
movie
action movie, but
with chase scenes and shit. And the cuts that he was showing were like 3-hour cuts. He was showing a bunch of 3-hour chase movie cuts to people, and everyone who was seeing the movie was like, "This is weird." And the budget's like $175 million, which is the biggest budget of PTA's career, and he's never ever made a ton of money on his film. So,
and that's a good thing to think about, is that they were saying that the executives were a little bit, I don't know, trepidatious about putting it out and everything, but that only makes me more excited that like people in charge of making the money and producing the money for PTA's films are saying, oh geez, I mean, gosh, I don't know if we're going to break even. That makes me way more excited than because it almost feels like there's no compromise.
Well,
and he's going to do what he wants,
I think it's going to be a pretty
everything that I would
strange
want.
movie. He's trying to make a really action-packed chase movie, and I love the trailer. I still think it's very bizarre, and the trailer is just so Pynchon. Like, it's so Pynchon. Like, him just being, "Thank you, Sensei! Thank you!" And he's like...
he says thank you like 20 times.
Viva la Revolution! Or something.
His voice cracks.
It's so funny. No, because in Vineland, there's this extended sequence with ninjas and the Japanese Yakuza and all this insane shit. And his wife has infiltrated the leftist movement of the late 60s. So there's this entire political... So basically, Vineland is an old hippie being disillusioned by the very conservative era of the 80s while raising a child and trying to kind of be himself, but he's kind of a loser. He's like collecting government money, and he's kind of like, fuck the government, but he like can't even survive if the government didn't give him money. So he's kind of like pathetic in that way. But I don't remember Vineland being an action book, but there are ninja assassin crazy sequences for sure that might get interpreted. I think and you see it in the trailer. You see the one chick who's doing like karate, and she went to,
well, that's his daughter.
Yeah, she went to Columbia.
Oh my god, I forgot you said that earlier.
Isn't that crazy? She went to Columbia like after COVID or something.
Just missed her.
Yeah. So no, I'm pretty hyped for it. I think it's going to be incredible, and I think it's going to be very subversive, and I think it's going to lose a lot of money, unfortunately.
Here's the thing, though, like I was saying before you went into that, is that I think I would almost rather it do that, because in a way I think that makes it better.
Well, I just don't want PTA to get fucked up the ass if he like loses Warner Brothers.
Sure. Well, what's crazy is I watch a lot of Oscar like awards channels, and they do these videos like way too early 2026 predictions, all that stuff, and they're like top five like director and picture screenplay is like one bell after another. They're like, this is PTA getting $150 million budget, and they're to the credit, there was this one channel that does the same vibe.
Mm-hmm.
The Oscar expert, and there's these twin brothers, and they're like, and they're kind of like, this seems kind of like an offbeat, PTA, more like psychologically challenging Pynchon novel, and they're saying like, I can see this not vibing with awards people,
Right.
and I really don't know anymore with Oscars. I can see it getting no nominations, but I can also just see it being like, yeah, Leo DiCaprio is going to win like Best Actor, and then like PTA is going to win the director finally, and all this shit. Not that like I'm trying to completely divert it into Oscar conversation and say that that would make it a better movie, because I like I said before, I would rather it flop. I really would, because I think that's going to make it a better movie. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting to bring into the conversation.
No, I mean, I will weep tears of joy when PTA wins his Oscar, because I don't know. I went on the rant when we did our Oscar episode, but it's so idiotic that certain people haven't won an Oscar yet. But do you know anything about the new Pynchon yet?
Yeah, I have absolutely nothing.
Okay, so I can read this description that Penguin released. There's no book cover yet, which is kind of intriguing. I wonder if they're still designing like the cover for the book, but it's called Shadow Ticket.
Shadow Ticket. Okay.
So I can read I'll read as much of this description as I can. It's kind of long. I don't know if I'll get through the full thing, but maybe we can like see how far I get. But so basically,
Not
Penguin
sure.
released this. It says Milwaukee, 1932. The Great Depression going full blast. Repeal of prohibition just around the corner. Al Capone in the federal pen. The private investigation business shifting from labor management relations to the more domestic kind. Hicks McTaggart, a one-time strikebreaker turned private eye, thinks he's found job security until he gets sent out on what should be a routine case. Locating and bringing back the heiress of a Wisconsin cheese fortune, who's taken a mind to go wandering. Before he knows it, he's been shanghaied onto a transoceanic liner, ending up eventually in Hungary, where there's no shoreline, a language from some other planet, and enough pastry to see any cop well into retirement. And of course, no sign of the runaway heiress he's supposed to be chasing. By the time Hicks catches up with her, he will find himself also entangled with Nazis, Soviet agents, British counterspies, swing musicians, practitioners of the paranormal, outlaw motorcyclists, and the troubles that come with each of them, none of which Hicks is qualified, forget about being paid, to deal with. Surrounded by history he has no grasp on and can't see his way around in or out of, the only bright side for Hicks is it's the dawn of the big band era. And as it happens, he's a pretty good dancer. Whether this will be enough to allow him somehow to Lindy Hop his way back again to Milwaukee and the normal world, which may no longer exist, is another question. So I actually read the whole description. So, hell yeah. An heiress? That's vintage Pynchon. Private Eye. Looking for an heiress.
Oh my god.
How does that sound, Austin?
Well, it's interesting that I would almost naively guess that he would go further into like maybe some sort of modern or postmodern sense, and he's just going to the Great Depression. That's interesting to
No,
me.
he's kind of a historian. Pynchon is a wild man because his family, apparently he can trace his own family back to like the Mayflower. He, there was a
Oh,
Pynchon there was a Pynchon who came over to the New World and
well, he must have a lot of transcripts and documents on these people, because I mean, most people can trace that, but there should be a lot of material there for him.
no, yeah, I think he's done research into his own family, but that's kind of the impetus for Mason and Dixon, which is one of his more beloved novels from the 90s, which is about these guys kind of mapping America in like the 1700s, you know, and then Against the Day, which a lot of people hate Against the Day, but I was blown away by Against the Day. Against the Day is starts with the Chicago World Fair in 1893, and it goes up until World War One, and you follow like 20 characters intersecting up until World War One, and they all like grow in front of your eyes, and it's insane. I was kind of offended because I love Cormac as well, another great novelist, but I was kind of offended when Cormac died and people were like, they were either saying, yeah, he's the GOAT, or they were being like, yeah, the greatest living writer just died. And in that split second, I was like, guys, Thomas Pynchon's still alive. And Thomas Pynchon is a better writer than McCarthy. And that's controversial to say that. I mean, it's a debate, but it's just facts. I mean,
Say it here.
Blood Meridian
Say it
is
here.
definitely a completely perfect novel. You can't criticize it. But I mean, I just reread Gravity's Rainbow, and it's like one of the most deranged, ambitious, genre defying, mind melting experiences in the history of art. And it transformed the novel as a vehicle in so many different ways. And he's just such a super genius, Pynchon. He has such a great way with words and stuff, but he's kind of inaccessible. That's the issue, is that it's very confusing to read his books. And Inherent Vice, God bless Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, to me, he did the greatest job you could ever do, because I think he's friends with Pynchon. I think Pynchon like coached him through making the film, and he knew what to do. He did the perfect adaptation. He made decisions that made perfect sense. He was able to, and we'll get to this in later episodes, he was able to translate the really complicated things because he used Johanna Newsom as a narrator. There's no
Oh
narrator in
yeah.
Inherent Vice. He adds Sortilege to be the narrator, and she's not the narrator in the book. And it's just a genius way to go about the movie because there's so many great
And her
sentences.
voice. And her
Yeah,
voice.
she has an amazing voice, and we'll get into it when we do the Inherent Vice episode. But I am so excited for Shadow Ticket. I'm probably more excited for Shadow Ticket than I am the new PTA, and I'm a diehard PTA. But
Oh.
I bet Shadow Ticket is going to be completely insane, because here's what happened is Cormac McCarthy hadn't published a novel for like 15 years or something.
Yeah.
Because, The Road was his last novel, and he was off the grid, but he was still alive. He just hadn't published anything. And he returned with The Passenger and Stella Maris, which I read, and then he just dropped dead. He published the last two books of his career, and he just drops dead.
Wait,
And
I'm ignorant on the Cormac McCarthy. Like he literally died, or
yeah, he's dead. He's in the ground.
oh fuck.
Yeah. So he
Sorry,
died
that sounded
probably.
disingenuous, but that was a anyway.
No, it didn't sound disingenuous. No, legit though. And I didn't really hear a lot of people respond to the new books, but I mean, I thought they were. I mean, again, this is super controversial. I need to reread Blood Meridian, but I mean, they're two of the best books of his entire career, and no one really gave a shit. The Passenger and Stella Maris are two of the greatest books I've ever read in my entire life. They're so insane. They're like about mathematicians and scientists and shit, because Cormac was for I don't know when it started, but he started hanging out with like theoretical physicists. So he became interested in scientists for a long time. And he never wrote about science in his books, right? His books are usually like cowboys, like understated westerns where a lead character doesn't really say their emotions, but then they get brutally killed in a tale where like the world is against them. You know what I
I'd
mean?
suck a cock if a man wasn't gay.
What do you say?
I would suck a cock if a man wasn't gay.
Are you quoting something?
Not really.
What the fuck? I don't even know what
That's
that
just my
means.
interpretation of like a Southern belle. Not a bell, like a bell,
Oh
like a
my god!
ding ding. I don't know. Anyway,
Like a ding ding.
you were saying,
So, bro, The Passenger and Stella Maris are about this brother and sister, and their father and their mother worked on the Manhattan Project. So, I think the book is like set in like the late 70s, early 80s. The two books, but both of them have this interest in science because their dad is like a scientist and their mom like worked on it. And so there's these insane sentences about the Manhattan Project in the book where you're just like, holy shit, this is just such an insane vehicle for what he's trying to do, you know? Like this is such a like I mean, there's so many genius sentences in Cormac McCarthy, but the second book, Stella Maris, is literally this chick who's like a hardcore mathematician. This is the sister. There's like the brother and the sister, and the sister is in a mental hospital. And the whole and literally he's never had a female main character ever until the last book of his career. So he had a full career, 50 years, never had a female main character. He waits until the last book of his career, and it's like the most genius character of any character he's ever had. And I mean genius in the sense of she's literally like a mathematical genius, and she's talking to her psychiatrist and she's going on rants about the history of mathematics, and she's quoting different mathematicians and what they thought. She's talking about conversations he had with different mathematicians, and then at the same time she's like hallucinating. So she's full on hallucinating
Wow.
of like crazy ass shit, and she's in like the loony bin, you know. And it's a crazy book. It's a crazy last book. But when that happened, when I read that shit, when I read
Interesting.
The Passenger and Stella Maris, I said to myself, man, Thomas Pynchon is back. He's going to come back. That's literally my reaction. I swear to God. And you know how I know this is actually what happened? I texted a bunch of people. I'm pretty sure I might have texted you. I mean, I'm not positive, but I texted Ben LaBelle. I texted to Bill. I might have texted you. I said, Thomas Pynchon is coming back. I said this when The Passenger and Stella Maris came out. I swear to God. It's on the record. I predicted it. I knew it was going to happen. And there's another writer, Robert Coover, who I brought up on our Oliver Stone episode, who wrote his most recent book, the Brunist. I think it's the Return of the Brunist or something. But he wrote this 1,000-page novel, and he was like in his 80s or 90s or something. So these writers, if they're still alive, they can just pop back up and just like release something. So I'm fucking hyped, bro.
It just seems like so much Pynchon in the 2020s, mid 2020s, that is seeping into like seemingly, pop culture. I mean, geez.
Oh yeah, no, it seems like he's definitely more influential, even though he's kind of inaccessible. He's definitely seeping into, because he was the conspiracy theory writer. He was the king of
Yeah.
he was the king of evildoers behind the scenes are doing things that are outside of our comprehension, and they're
Yeah.
pulling the strings, and
Well,
you know
I think of it kind of like music. I mean, there's so many bands we probably know from the 60s and 70s that have influenced so many things. And I mean,
right.
granted, I mean, I feel like people have heard a lot of them, but it's getting passed down. There's no time limit to influence.
No, I mean it's true. People catch up with it because it's fucking crazy, bro. I was rereading Gravity's Rainbow, and do you know what the plot of Gravity's Rainbow? I've literally asked you this question maybe 10,000 times. I've said to you at a time we've been like either drinking or just hanging out, and I've said to
Do
you, "Do
you
you know
know
what the
the
plot of Gravity's Rainbow is?" You remember this question?
I do, but I know no, I don't.
You don't remember the answer, but you remember me bringing this up.
No, because I've been reading. I've actually been. I have a bleeding edge, but that's
Oh hell yeah!
completely different to. That's more like 9/11 and shit, but
Oh yeah, no, exactly though. I want to reread Bleeding Edge for that reason. Like it has to do with 9/11, yeah. But
PTA has that tracking shot on the going to the Twin Towers.
oh my god, bro. No,
I'm
I could
sorry.
say the most insane shit right now about 9/11, and it would be such a way to get us put on like a let's call it a Trump
No, no,
AI
no, 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 no,
era.
no, no.
Uh
It's a good hold if you don't.
let's
It's
let's
a good hold.
but no, Bleeding Edge is great.
Yes.
No, but Gravity's Rainbow is about Tyrone Slothrop. And Tyrone Slothrop gets erections. And when he gets an erection from usually fucking some chick in World War II, right? Like some English lady. He's like an American stationed in London during World War II. Where he gets an erection, where he fucks some chick, a V2 rocket strikes. So there are these scientists, Dr. Pointsman and Roger Mexico, who are statisticians that are studying his erections. And they are plotting it on a map of London, and they're trying to figure out if he is getting an erection after when a rocket hits or before, or if he's intentionally horny because he's killing people with rocket. Like, what the fuck is going on? So you figure out that he had been conditioned from a young age by a Pavlovian scientist to have his sexual like life connected with
Yeah.
rocket technology. So the
That
whole
is
book.
this is unfilmable.
No, yeah, and that's Gravity's Rainbow, which is to me one of the greatest
You
novels
cannot
ever.
film this.
No, yeah, and it there's a crazy story about Gravity's Rainbow where it was supposed to win the National Book Award or something insane. No, I think it won the National Book Award.
It goes to the Hunger Games.
Yeah, so it did win the National Book Award. It was
Good.
supposed to win, I think, the Pulitzer. Was it the Pulitzer? I'm fucking.
Well, that would be the freaking Holy Grail, I would assume.
There's this crazy ass story, and I'm like an idiot that I didn't Google this before we started this podcast. Yeah, yeah. So it was selected for the Pulitzer Prize in 1974. So it won the National Book Award. It was a literary sensation. It took over the world. It was hot shit. Everybody knew what this book was because it was crazy. It was like an attention getting book. And the Pulitzer Prize was gonna they were gonna give it to the Pulitzer Prize, and the Pulitzer Advisory Board decided against it. They superseded the jury selection, and no Pulitzer Prize was given for the year 1974. That's how fucking batshit nuts Gravity's Rainbow is, because there's crazy ass like sexual sequences, like Germans, like eating shit, like insane,
but
like.
but is the absence of the Pulitzer Prize or the award that it would have gotten, does that make it better?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like more. I mean, that's kind of what happened to James Joyce with Ulysses too. I mean,
Oh God.
the book was published, and it was. I think he went through a whole like court cases and shit to like get it published in America because it was specifically. It's actually kind of hilarious. I don't know if my parents know this, but my parents gave me this blanket that has like a Ulysses quote on it, and it's literally like a horrific
Oh.
like sex sequence on this
No.
fucking blanket.
Yes.
I think they have no idea.
Have you heard heard of his love letters with Nora?
No, yeah. No, we've been talking about this.
My dirty little fuckbird Nora, talking about her like
It's so
shitting
Yeah.
in her pants and fucking her up the ass.
This
This
a
might
wild
get the
episode.
I mean, if they made it this far, this might get it taken down. But
No.
anyone
There's no
who's
video.
listening,
I think we're probably
anybody
fine.
who's listening can look this up on the internet and look up James Joyce's love letters to Nora.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't do it. But if you want to, James Joyce's love letters to Nora. I'm not saying you should, but that would.
No, yeah, he's talking about like sucking farts out her ass and all kinds of stuff.
No, he is.
No, he's a lunatic. Yeah, we're just going on a literary rant, but to quote from The Passenger, there's so many quotes I could just pull up in a split second, but in The Passenger, just going back to The Passenger because he's talking about the nuke. give you an idea of like the language. So this is describing the nuclear bomb. In that mycoidal phantom, blooming in the dawn like an evil lotus, and in the melting of solids not heretofore known to do so, stood a truth that would silence poetry 1,000 years. That's Cormac McCarthy on the invention of the atomic bomb.
Kind of sexy if you really think about it.
We could probably do a counselor episode too. You know, the counselor is I rewatched that. I hated it
Oh
when it came
shit.
out, but that's a Cormac script.
No, I mean, I haven't seen it, but I just assumed like, meh.
No, I saw it when it came out. I hated it. I rewatched it like a year or two ago, and I was like, "This is amazing." Like
Damn. Okay.
it's vintage Cormac, but Ridley Scott is just like kind of a shitty director. So Ridley Scott makes
Let's go.
Ridley Scott makes a lot of mistakes, but in terms of directing the actors,
Oh, for sure.
like some of the performances, there's weird. I mean, there's a scene where Michael Fassbender is kind of like so like fucked up, and he just has all this snot like pouring out of his nose, and you're just like, all right, that's not what Cormac wrote. He did not write that the main character is like has snot coming out of. I mean, maybe he did, but this is like there's a lot of shit like that.
Oh,
Ridley Scott is. I don't know. I dislike Ridley Scott, but the script is incredible, and it's still. I think it holds up. I think if you saw it, you would be like, "This is a really good movie."
damn.
But yeah, we're charging along. This is a good episode. Do you think
No,
we
I
got
mean,
time for? Do you want to keep talking about this, or do you want to go through this con lineup real quick?
I'm really only familiar with like a couple films, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that we can go through it real quick.
Well, I
2025
mean,
con. It's
yeah.
kind of just a thin lineup,
I've
unfortunately.
I've seen people comment on like Reddit or like YouTube shows with
Right.
YouTuber reviewers being like, "This is the con line," and being like, "This is the worst year of con."
Yeah, it's pretty bad in my opinion. I
To
mean, there's the new Ari Aster movie is going to be there. Eatington. I don't. I
edit,
feel like Eddington maybe. I'm not like a diehard Ari Aster. And then the new Wes Anderson film is going to be in competition,
sure,
and then the Dardenne brothers are going to be in content. I'm interested in this one, Alpha by Julia
okay,
Ducournau. She made Titan and
yeah,
Raw,
yeah.
and Titan won the Palme d'Or a couple years ago. I think Alpha will be really good, but
Hmm.
I don't know a lot of these names. Richard Linklater, he's doing a film which I think might be like a biopic of like Jean-Luc Godard. Maybe it's called New Wave. I think it's about French New Wave.
No,
That's
it's
gonna
just
be
it's 5 hours of a fucking beach and it's just new waves.
New Waves. Yeah,
Well,
no, Con. I wanted to do like to talk about this more when when I knew that the lineup was going to be announced, but it's kind of crazy that it's this thin because they
no,
might
I
end up
mean it is.
adding. I know that B Gone, who made Collie Blues and Journey to the End of the Night. There's a rumor that his film is going to get entered in under the wire. But who even knows? That's a rumor. And you know, people were talking about the new Terrence Malick being at Con. That I've been hearing that for 2-3 years.
What?
The new Terrence Malick, and and it's starring the dude from Son of Saul, Geza Rohrig.
Oh
Is
my god.
I think Geza Rohrig is Jesus, and then
Dude.
Mark
Wait.
Rylance from Bridge of Spies is Satan in the new Terrence Malick.
Oh my god. That's
Which
amazing.
it's just been in editing for years, unfortunately. So I don't even know when that's
Yeah.
going to come out. But I heard another rumor that the new Laszlo Nemes film, the guy who did Son of Saul and Sunset, I think his new movie might have gotten rejected from Cannes, which is bullshit. But of these names I know, and I
Kind of
love
cool.
Laszlo Nemes, even though he's a lunatic Israeli hawk, he's still a really great filmmaker. But no, Jafar Panahi, New film from him. He's a really solid Iranian director. Interesting to see what he's got. The Mastermind by Kelly Reichardt. I think I've seen maybe one or two films from Kelly Reichardt. She's solid. I mean, I liked the one or two films I'd seen from her, but I might see the Mastermind and Sentimental Value by Joachim Trier. He's the guy who did The Worst Person in the World, which I didn't really like very much, but I love that lead actress, and I thought that movie was going to be a little bit better. But so I don't know. Sentimental Value could be good, and then Uncertain Regard. Let me see. Oh Jesus, yeah, Scarlett Johansson. The Scarlett Johansson directed movies, and yeah, there's no way that's good.
Oh my god.
I just hate actors directing movies. It's just bullshit. It's like it's like almost impossible unless you're like Clint Eastwood. You're like not gonna transition well into being a director after being a great, being a great actor. But yeah, it looks like there's a new Spike Lee.
Hey?
Highest to Lowest by Spike Lee. This is a cool one. V Privé. I don't know how to pronounce that, by Rebecca Zlotowski in Out of Competition. Rebecca Zlotowski is an awesome director. I really, really like her a lot. French filmmaker. So yeah, Private Life is the
So
translation. So yeah, I guess this is
Zlotowski. I don't know.
yeah. So she's Polish name. It's starring Jodie Foster. Wow,
Let's go.
the
It's going to be
Private
better
Life.
than Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
/ The Final.
No, yeah. Rebecca Zlotowski is pretty fucking legit. I saw An Easy Girl, which I think is on Netflix. An Easy Girl is like a masterpiece. I only watched it one time, but
Damn.
I was fucked up by it. I was like, wow, this is great. Because Albert Serra loves An Easy Girl, which is kind of like about a slut. And it's more than that. It's like a great movie about a slut. But
Oh my god.
she made Other People's Children is the other one that she made after that, which wasn't as good as An Easy Girl was amazing. Other People's Children was really good. It was still really good, and I really liked it a lot. But she is awesome. I think Rebecca Zlotowski is one of the directors I'm most interested in seeing their new film at Cannes. But it's a pretty insanely thin lineup, unfortunately, and I don't know. I'm glad we were able to talk about it real quick because it is fairly thin. But yeah, we'll do a con episode in a month. That's a guarantee. We'll do it on the winners because last year the Palme d'Or was Nora, and
Yeah.
Parasite won the Palme d'Or a couple years ago. I think it's becoming more, and they're becoming more aligned with the Oscars, which I don't think is a good thing. But it is true that
It
the
is and it
movies.
isn't, I would say.
Well, yeah, because Sundance has always been like that. I mean, if you were hardcore into film in the '90s and you were following the trajectory of a little movie made for $1 million called Pulp Fiction, you would see that it premiered at Sundance, and then you would see that it went to Cannes. And I mean, I want to say that Pulp Fiction won like the Palme d'Or for Cannes or something, and then it gets all the way to the Oscars. So it's not unheard of for a movie to literally go from a Sundance premiere to like being at the Oscars like a year and a half later. It does happen, but it does happen with Cannes, like these American there's more and more overlap for sure. But I don't know, I'm really surprised that there aren't better. Yeah, I was right. Just firing from the hip. Pulp Fiction won the Palme d'Or in 1994. Hell yeah. I called it. But no, yeah, I think I don't know. We covered a lot of shit. I only have one more story from LA that I can think of that I think is funny.
Well, before you do that, I would like to say one more thing about the con is
Hell
Eddington.
yeah. Okay,
Is,
you've heard
is
about
that,
it?
Well, I saw the trailer.
Oh, there's a trailer.
Oh god, dude! Yeah, dude! It's freaking Instagram reels of just like political, like hyper political, brain rot. Is what the kids call it, for lack of a better term. I mean, you get on like hyper political, concentrated social media, just penetrating your veins in your brain, and like you're so anyway. There's
Oh
a
my God.
quick clip of Joaquin Phoenix as a police ranger at a press conference, and it's from the point of view of like it's inside like a phone. So there's these. It's basically like Instagram. So it's like all the clips are Instagram, and it's Joaquin Phoenix being like, "If you value your life, you better think twice, because the people of Eddington love guns."
Okay.
And then there's like another
I'll look
clip
up
when
the
they
trailer
scroll.
after this.
They scroll up, and it's like local sheriff of Eddington assaults like protester, and it says like hindsight is 2020, and I believe it's set in 2020, and it's just like it's very it just seems like a big satire, and for like
Okay.
I don't know, it seems like I don't know, I really I like Hereditary and Midsummer. My freaking my beautiful 6-year-old mother loves Hereditary, which is weird, but yeah, but I don't know, to see like a kind of a I don't want to call Ari Aster like mainstream because he has his A24 niche, but it is interesting at least to see him tackling some sort of maybe political sphere. Granted, he like I would say like I'm not completely interested in him in the terms of like he's one of my favorite directors or anything, but that does excite me that like somebody outside of the the box office is tackling some sort of seemingly like COVID, and like people are wearing masks in the background of the shot, and they're like punching people. Yeah, it's great. You should. Anyway,
I'll watch the trailer. No, it's interesting. No, yeah, it's been a good episode. I'll leave you with one last bit before we call it here, but
please don't insult me.
I'm not going to insult you.
Woo!
One of my favorite moments in the trip, like I was
Fuck
saying,
you, George. Sorry.
Oh my god!
I made it an hour and 22 minutes in, George. What did you do? What did you do? You weren't.
There's no way. There's no way anyone is going to listen this far in, so we're good. But legit, one of my favorite moments was when we were talking about the Middle East, me and Yusuf, and I was really asking him about a ton of like Middle Eastern political figures and stuff. And there was this moment where I brought up Gaddafi, and I was just like, we had this whole conversation about Gaddafi and just the Middle East in general. And I remember thinking to myself, and I told him this at the time, but I think I might have told him this the next day or something. We got breakfast a couple days later, and it was amazing. I mean, Yusuf is just like a world class guy, and I literally said to him, "You talking about Gaddafi, it's like the equivalent of when Trump says tariff is the most beautiful word in the English language. It's tariff, most beautiful word in the English language, more beautiful than love." I feel like my good.
It's so beautiful. It's more beautiful than love. It really is. Because love is finite. Tariff is forever. I mean, McKinley in the 1901.
No, exactly.
Anyway,
so I said to Yusuf, I'm like, bro, the name Gaddafi for you is your tariff. That word that's the word that you were destined to utter and go on rants about. And that is something that I didn't know about you, because I didn't know shit about politics and history when I first was friends with Yusuf at Columbia. But it was great reconnecting with him and having a very political conversation. And he's working on it sounds like he's working on a really cool doc about, I think he said it's like on Islamophobia or something, or it's like about the Middle East, but he had like a shit ton of cute like cards all over his room, like basically storyboarding out this doc.
Fuck yeah.
I'm interested to see his next what he's got cooking, but no, he's doing well. I might go back to LA and hang out with some of these people. I feel like an idiot. Maybe I forgot some LA stories, but I'll probably tell you actually some of the things that were said off mic.
Oh god,
I'm not going to get recorded saying. But anyway, fuck Taylor Huntrup. He can rot in hell. And this has been a great episode
of god. Oh my god.
All right. See you later, everybody.